My beautiful friends, it is an amazing debate day, baby. We're waiting for those tubes to fire up before we jump on into it. We've been waiting for this day. Finally, Kamala is going to emerge from the bunker to face President Donald Trump, and we are going to cover it live. Now, we've got about 30 minutes until this thing kicks off in full. You can see we've got the pregame pulled up from ABC News. You can see 29, 38, 37, 36, 35, and it's just going to continue to count down. We're going to come back as soon as this puppy goes live, but we've got some other business to attend to, all related to the debate, because we've got a little bit of a preview. I want to share with you right out of the gate how rigged this whole thing is from the beginning. Now, a lot of the times you'll hear people say that, and it's because they're kind of coping because their candidate's terrible. We're not worried about that. We know that the mainstream media is the problem. Donald Trump has already been in multiple debates, taken out multiple candidates, including Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. But now we're seeing a situation that appears to be a little bit biased. Of course, this is happening on ABC, where George Slopadopoulous reigns supreme. And Slopadopoulous, along with the rest of the ABC people, really don't like Trump. We've seen that from a lot of their anchors. But our friend Amuse over on X, he posted this. He says, the host of tonight's presidential debate is actually a member of the Biden-Harris administration. You go, wait, what? And so he's not talking about the moderators, right? Talking about the hosts, the people who are welcoming the two candidates into the forum. Says this is the first time in history that this has happened. And so he gave us a little bit of detail on this. But when we go over to Wikipedia just to take a look at what is going on here, even from their perspective, it's true. Her name is Dana Waldman. She's an American businesswoman. She's the co-chairwoman. Oh, what is that? What is this gendered language doing in this article? It's very bigoted. But you can see she currently serves as a member of the President's Export Council. What? Wait, what? So she works for Joe Biden, and she also runs ABC, as we're going to see. So Waldman was the chair of entertainment at Walt Disney. Then she became the co-chairman of Disney Entertainment in 2023, where she's responsible for a bunch of stuff. As part of this role, Walden leads ABC Entertainment and ABC News. Oh, isn't that fun? So she actually runs ABC News, and she's also on the president's export committee. So President's Export Council. So it's just like, it's one big disgusting relationship there in DC. Ugh. They all know each other. They're all sleeping with each other. They're all on each other's boards. You want to be on my board? Only if you on my board. Well, what if we're on two boards together? Well, we're going to be on 3 boards and 4 boards. There's boards all over the place. And they really get off on it, it seems like. So that's going to be the pretext coming into the debate. That's the woman who's going to be inviting them over. And we're wondering if they're going to give them the questions like they gave to Hillary Clinton back when that happened some time ago after Trump took that candidate out too. But what is so fun about this one is Kamala, the last time we heard from her, she had to bring out her emotional support governor with her because she couldn't go and have a conversation by herself. It was a little scary out there to talk to the news people. So she had to go find someone else to come help her. And what we're finding here is that today she's going to have a little tiny, teeny tiny baby podium too to help her. And so you see this got clipped over on X from Ian Miles Chung, and he posted this, and a bunch of people have gotten other screenshots of this, but here is one rendering of what this looks like. This is the tiny podium.
The stage. We're a little blinded where we're sitting, but the podium's here. Harris is going to be on the right.
It's tiny.
Oh, it's interesting. It'll be, again.
So
in a little teeny tiny podium. See that right there? What'd they do that for? And I thought that we heard that there were rumors. There was nothing like this confirmed that she wanted a booster seat. She wanted a little, to stand up on something because she's a small figure. And I don't mean physically, but she wants to look bigger than she is. So she wanted a podium. Actually, she wanted to be sitting down originally, but now they have a little teeny tiny podium. And I was wondering, is this normal? Like, I don't know if I've ever seen this before. And it looks like, did they make Trump's bigger? Like, that's another concern. Like, did they actually make his bigger to make him look smaller? Right? These cheating Democrats will do anything for optics. And so they're going to give her the tiny podium to make her look more imposing. Did other Democratic candidates have to do this when we had like Hillary Clinton running or when Nikki Haley was on the stage? Did Nikki Haley have little tiny baby podiums with booster seats? I don't think so. Did Hillary Clinton? I don't think so. Here's another angle on this from Colin Rugg, right? You can see here's what it looks like. Clearly different. One is a lot smaller. And I thought she was about equity and inclusion and everybody gets the same crap, right? Like a good communist. But what is the problem here? Well, I don't think that they did this for other candidates. Here's Hillary Clinton when she was debating Trump. And I'm pretty sure that's the same size. So Hillary Clinton, who is much more competent and capable than Kamala, actually could stand at a regular sized podium. They didn't have to make a baby podium for Kamala. And that's just one angle on this. So there's more. I saw a couple other angles. Now, during this debate, I was having a hard time finding a front angle on this. But even when we look around, I think these are all the same size. Like, she's not on a little baby tiny podium with her support governor nearby. These are all the regular sized podiums. And even when they did this little walk and talk, when they were walking around, they had the same chairs, they had the same podiums. Like, why would it be so denigrating to a woman that you need a smaller podium? I mean, isn't that misogynist? Why don't women have the same podiums as men? This is ridiculous. We're all for equality here, and Kamala should have the same size podium, okay? She shouldn't have a smaller podium. She's a big girl. She's the vice president. So give her the real size. She doesn't need a little kid's cup. This is crazy. So anyways, I guess maybe that's what she wanted, but Hillary Clinton is not she's obviously a much tougher figure. She doesn't need toys in her Happy Meals. But it was what you would expect because Kamala is very insecure. As she was leaving the scene in Philadelphia, she was greeted by a bunch of Trump fans. Here's what this sounded like. She's probably sweating in there. They're like, did you bring the extra deodorant? Yeah, we did. Well, how much? 3 cases. 3? This is the debate. Go get some more. Right, so you can see it's basically that for the rest of the video, but yeah, they're all coming, man. Shout out to our MAGA crew out there on the stand who is just making sure that every single vehicle that passes by knows who is in the house. And so Kamala's on her way over to the debate in Philly. But she's going to have to make a good appearance today. She's got a lot of questions that she's going to have to answer. One interesting story that has percolated that we talked about this morning on our members only stream over on Locals and for our YouTube members was this story. And Kamala, apparently back in 2019, she filled out this form for the ACLU and there was a bunch of questions here. It was a questionnaire. And we spent some more time on this. I don't want to spend a ton of our time on it, but she answered all of these questions, right? Questions like, do you want to reduce incarceration by 50% in the federal prison system? Kamala wrote, yeah, basically my priority is going to be to fight for justice reform, right? So she didn't answer yes or no's on some of those, but on some of these, she did answer yes or no's. She wants, for example, a fair and achievable path to citizenship for 11 million undocumented immigrants. This is what she said in 2019. So it's pretty easy right here. She says, yes, I do. So does she still believe that today? Just as short 5 years later? She says, as president, I will prioritize a pathway to citizenship for the 11 million plus people. Oh, that's nice. Do you want to end the use of ICE detainers? Answer, yes. Does she want to do that today? She can answer those questions for us? Hopefully she does. And then there was a big one, as we'll see. She wants, what's so curious about all of this is, of course, more abortion, more abortion. She wants a bunch of stuff passed. But this was a very curious one from Kamala. She said this in 2019 when she was running against Joe Biden, who's one of the most liberal lunatics in America. Says, hey, Kamala, as president, will you use your executive authority to ensure that transgender and non-binary people who rely on the state for medical care, okay, including prisoners and illegal immigrants, those in immigration detention, they're non-binary and transgender. So do you want them to have access to comprehensive treatment associated with their transition? Do you want them to have the necessary surgical care? Yes or no, Kamala? Let's see what she says today. Maybe she'll answer this. Answer, yes. She writes, it is important that transgender individuals who rely on the state for care get the treatment that they need, including the removal of their very pesky genitals, which includes access to treatment associated with gender transition. That's why I, as Attorney General, I push the California prisons to just get rid of them. Approve gender transition surgery to state inmates. We were joking about this on our member stream this morning, talking about how in prison you can't even get a sandwich without some mold on it, but you could get your genitals lopped off if you wanted those. So what do you want? No sandwiches, but genital removal. Here you go. So gender transition, including surgical care, all covered by the state while incarcerated, calling transition treatment a medical necessity, and I will direct all federal agencies to provide medical care to deliver that treatment. Off with your head. Now, recent presidents have used the CIA to conduct lethal strikes, right? So she goes on and on and on. And this is her record. This is what she's talked about with the ACLU. And so the question is, will she adhere to a lot of this? We don't know. But the question did come up to one of Kamala Harris's campaign surrogates. And he says it's not even that big a deal. First of all, no one cares about that. Doesn't want to answer the question. Here's how he sounded.
But I do want to ask you about this CNN report. It shows Harris voiced support for cutting funding for ICE and for using taxpayer money to fund transgender surgery for detained migrants in 2019. Does the vice president still support those positions, and do you expect her to address them tonight?
Listen, I think, these old questionnaires are a complete distraction from the task at hand right now. I think the vice president, and frankly, what the American people are actually asking about, right? What the American people are concerned about and what they're asking about is who's going to solve for border security.
Well, we do want to know who is going to solve it and really what that person is going to do. The who does the what. So who is going to do it, and who is that person really, right? What is Kamala's position? Nobody really knows. She's flip-flopped on virtually everything. In 2019, like we saw in that list, she wants surgical transitions that costs, I don't even want to know how much money, for I guess, indefinite care, for non-citizens, illegal people who should not even be here, and people who are in prison, right? It's just another expense because she's doing that in the name of equity and care and medical concern or whatever it is. But they don't want to answer it, and we know why. They don't want to dig into the past. Something else that has come up is this one, which is very interesting, that has been spread around all over the Xville. 1.3 million views. A lot of people are wondering how Kamala really got her comeuppance in California, law, in California business. She just kind of came out of nowhere, all of a sudden ran as a San Francisco prosecutor in the DA's office, got elected there, San Francisco DA, then from there, state attorney general, then from there, senator, then from there, VP. Now she's like a stone's throw away from the president. And whoa, scary stuff. So here is what it sounded like when Kamala was out back in the old days, hanging out with Willie Brown. This is the mayor in San Francisco, in California, who was palling around with Kamala while he was married. No.
He's a rogue, all right, notorious for his flamboyant lifestyle. Flashy clothes, fancy parties, fine women, and fast cars.
No, she's not his daughter. No, she's not. Although she may call him daddy, I don't know. But of course, no, she's not his daughter at all. She's his lover.
You should from now on address me as the mayor.
Look at her.
If ever a man and a municipality were made for each other, it is this man, this place.
Oh,
he's a rogue,
that's
all
fun.
right.
And of course, I know that's sexist. This is misogynistic. Who cares who she was sleeping around with or whatever, right? You can't bring that up. That's an unfair thing to talk about, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, these same people bring Stormy Daniels on Jimmy whatever Loserville's show, and they have her point out mushrooms, right, on a weird board because they had somebody making up mushroom genitals on their Tonight Show. That's what kind of a sick show that is. So, yeah, it's fair, right? If they want to talk about this, if we're going to have Bergdorf getting Bergdorfed at Bergdorf's, then we got to know who was doing the Bergdorfing here between Willie Brown and Kamala Harris. You know what I mean? All right, so that's all happening. Now, the truth of the matter is, what is this going to do to the election? Is this going to cause any change, any real consequence one way or the other? You can see this is what CNN was saying in a little bit pre-debate poll and analysis. The debate is going to be starting in just a few short minutes. It looks like the countdown timer has us just under 15 minutes. And so we'll continue with a couple updates and we'll jump over there to see what is happening. This is CNN's most recent poll and summation before the debate launches.
Just need to learn more about Donald Trump. Just 18% of undecided voters say they need to learn more about Donald Trump. But look at this. A near majority of undecided voters say they want to or need to learn more about Kamala Harris. Look, undecided voters don't really like either one of these folks. Donald Trump, which is an 8% favorable, Kamala Harris, which is a 13% favorable. But the bottom line is there's a lot more room for movement for Kamala Harris than there is for Donald Trump. So the real question tonight is, can Kamala Harris seize this opportunity, seize the spotlight, put to rest fears that they may have about her? Because the bottom line is undecided voters have already made up their mind about Donald Trump. They're waiting to make up their mind about Kamala Harris, and how they do so can make all the difference in the world at the end of the day come November.
How about the expectations? I mean, people literally put money on who's going to win the debate. You can bet on anything. What is the expectation?
Yeah, you know, if the expectation going into the first debate of this year, remember, this is the first debate, as my cover slide kind of indicated, right? They thought that Donald Trump was going to win that first debate by an 8-point margin. Now the expectation game is on the other shoe, right? On the other foot. Look at this. When it comes to Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump, Harris, the expectation is that she is going to beat Donald Trump. Now, it's not by that wide of a margin, but I think tonight the real question is, how does Kamala Harris get viewed and judged by the American public? Because as I said just a little bit ago, the American electorate has made up their mind about Donald Trump. They haven't made up their mind about Kamala Harris, and this may be her last best chance to get them on her side of the equation and not go with the Republicans.
It's probably going to be her only chance. If she doesn't do well on this, then she's definitely not going to do that second debate. They'll say Trump was up there spreading lies and misinformation, and they'll come up with some cope as to why she can't do another one.
And nominee for president.
And this may be the most number of Americans that she will and he will ever get until the election. It's huge.
It's a huge audience across all the networks, including this one, which is where you should watch, of course.
9 p.m.
There we go.
I understand it.
Yes, that's why
tonight. That's
all right, so they're going to be hosting it. We're, of course, hosting it. We are just jumping over there. They're on commercial on ABC. So we'll continue our updates and see what else is happening out there. But Byron Donalds, he came out, little pre-debate spin. He's saying, hey, this is what Trump needs to do. This is how Kamala has failed. As long as the American people can understand that dynamic, things will be crystal clear.
Well, first of all, I think all the president really needs to do is draw the contrast between his successful administration and the disastrous administration of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Go down the issues list. Inflation, the economy, immigration, foreign policy, actually protecting the free speech of the American people, because it's a crystal contrast that Donald Trump was successful on all those measures, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris created a massive inflation. They opened up our borders massively, and our foreign policy is not in good shape, not by any measure. And so the contrast is what the American people are looking for. They want to hear concrete ideas. They want to hear concrete solutions. And Donald Trump has done this job before. He did it in a very important way.
Well, I agree with that. I think that it would be ideal to hear a lot of policy. And I think that if anybody's going to want to drag this down into the mud, it's going to be Kamala, because she really has no policy that she can talk about. She's pretty out of practice, having been the vice president and been hiding, mostly drunk, in our opinion, in different corridors of the White House. But now she's got to come out and explain how she's really excited about Joe Biden and their policies because they did a great job, so she deserves another 4 years. But she's different than Joe Biden because their job has been terrible and the Americans really realize that. It's a really unenvious position to be in, but she's got to do it. So Byron Donalds, I think, is right about this. Just let's talk policy. I think that the policies speak for themselves. What is hers? She doesn't even know. So that is some good stuff. Now, there is some more scandal afoot. Kamala Harris is copying Joe Biden's entire campaign. You see that some experts dove into the source code and they identified what looks like a literal copy of policy, right? We call the Democrats cheaters, copy pasters, really uninteresting people who really have no ideas, much enthusiasm for life. They just kind of regurgitate whatever the government tells them to do. So Kamala's like, oh crap, we need some policies. Anybody know where to get one? Yeah, Joe Biden. Oh yeah, that guy we cooed? Oh yeah. We didn't like him, but we liked his communist policy. So yeah, sure, we'll just copy those. And so as you can see, Team Harris, they write, literally copied the code from Joe Biden's team, right? It had his name in the source code. So they went over to his website, copied the whole thing, went over into WordPress or whatever, and then copy and pasted it right on top, right? And you can see it here, the thumbnail URLs, KamalaHarris.com. Yeah, it's a WordPress site, WP content uploads. And then together we can finish the job for the American people. So the description in here, they just copied the page basically. Then there's a description. Are you with us? Join our campaign to re-elect Joe Biden today. No, he's not running. You guys cooed him out the window. So no, it didn't work out. So they just copied it, right? She's an empty suit. So who knows what she's going to be saying tonight. And they were upset about this. So this is a website called New Republic. They said, Kamala, you can't keep doing this, okay? You're embarrassing us. We need some policies. So they published a poll earlier this week. We talked about it yesterday. And the polls are looking like Trump is pulling ahead, saying that Kamala is not doing a good job of distinguishing herself. But the campaign strategy was to ride the good vibes and the hystericism and the joy. But the campaign is now realizing this is a problem. They finally added an issues website. It includes a slew of policies that the campaign has previously outlined. Unfortunately for Harris, its release was undermined by a simple but telling error. Oh no. The page's source code revealed that parts of the platform were copied directly from Biden's campaign page. Oh no. Now, this is bad news because 60% of voters want a major change from Biden. She is not. She works for him as his vice president. And so that makes sense because, she's vice president. And how are they going to make that change? So she's got her work cut out for her today. And you see how Fox News was reporting this copy and paste theft. Joe Biden's a plagiarist, so why not Kamala? And plagiarism's in right now, man. I mean, they're doing it all over Harvard, too.
A new chapter. That might be an empty promise, though, based on a look at the Harris campaign's new issues page on their website, because the New Republic decoded some of the computer coding on it and determined that large chunks of the Harris issue platform are just direct copy pastes from the Biden issues page. A new chapter.
Just pathetic because they have no real ideas. All right, so Chris Christie is now live. He's over on with ABC. Let's see what he has to say.
Well, certainly he's not saying that publicly in any way. And I can tell you that in 2016, he would regularly say during the many debate prep sessions that we had with him that Hillary Clinton was smart, that she was a good debater, that she was not to be taken lightly. And I don't think there was ever a moment in 2016 where he took her lightly.
Yeah.
I do think he took Joe Biden lightly in 2020. And clearly during the prep sessions that I had with him, it was very, very difficult to get him to focus on what Joe Biden might or might not do in that first debate. And I think his performance in part reflected that. So the question's going to be, is what he's saying publicly what he really believes? We know that often with Donald Trump, that's performance. But I will tell you that in his 2016 prep,
he's got a whole
he
record.
Was serious about getting ready for
4
Hillary
years.
Clinton. In his 2020 debate prep, he was completely unserious about getting ready for Joe Biden. I think performances in both those debates reflected that approach.
All right, Chris Christie, you'll be watching with us. Martha?
And we have about 6 minutes left before the debate.
All right,
let's
and then
bring
who's
in
coming
Donna
on?
Brazil, formerly with the DNC, and Reince Priebus.
Oh, Donna! She gave the questions to Hillary
Welcome
that
you,
time,
Donna.
right?
Let's start with you. You have said that Kamala Harris has to own the future. But she also has to own the past. So how does she do this?
Yeah, she did. She admitted she gave the questions to Hillary.
Because I do believe that in talking about the future, you draw from your past. You draw from your past experiences. She draws from how she was raised, the values that was instilled in her as a young lady.
Oh, that's just going to be the new
steady on
shtick.
her feet, still in her resolve. And tonight she should talk to the American people, sit in their living rooms, go to their kitchen table and say, look, I have some ideas that I want to share with you. There's so much that we have done together over the last 4 years. But here's what I think we can do together over the next 4 years. Be positive in her approach and really remind the American people that we don't want to go back to the chaos and the confusion, the disaster that made, of course, the American people go out and
no wars and a secure border and a sound dollar? Yeah, we want to go back to that.
I want to be a president that
we want
leads
better
all
than that.
Americans. I want to keep us strong and secure. And here's the plan that I want to share with you tonight.
And Donna, I, of course...
All right, so I just looked it up. Donna Brazile, yeah, confirms. You can see veteran campaign operative Donna Brazile confirms, yeah, finally admitted she used her former position as a CNN commentator to relay questions ahead of the debates to Hillary during the primary. For months, she avoided confirmation of that. Then in October, for months, but in a new essay for Time, she said it was true. Yeah, and in October... Many things I did in my role, but I did share potential town hall topics with the Clinton campaign. She said she was remorseful. My job was to make all candidates look good, but sending those emails was a mistake I will forever regret. Isn't that nice? So, of course, she's a cheater, and they are bringing her back on ABC News. So just get ready for what is going to come as a result of that. So the countdown continues, my friends. Let's listen in and see who this guy is and what he's saying.
Well, he certainly can be. I mean, the reality is Donald Trump doesn't have a lot to lose tonight. I mean, his support has always been almost unmovable. So
that's right.
The second piece is the honeymoon, I think, is over for Kamala Harris. And you all kind of touched on it with Donna.
True.
Kamala Harris has to answer for the state of the economy that she took a role in the Biden administration, the border, you know, her past positions on decriminalizing the border, decriminalizing certain drugs, what her role was in Afghanistan. So really, the spotlight is on Kamala Harris tonight because she played a role in the Biden administration. She wants to act like she's not an incumbent. So this is where the focus is going to be. And she's got a lot to answer for tonight. And I think that's where Donald Trump's focus will be and where it actually should be tonight.
Good to see you, brother.
One of the things he
What's up,
wants
Tony?
to
Hey.
do is have female voters look at him. How does he attract female voters after saying things about Kamala Harris?
I don't know. Do
We'll see
female
how he
voters care about
pronounces that
immigration
tonight.
or
Things
the
he said
economy
about
or
Kamala Harris
wars?
that
Do they
she's
care?
dumb as
I
a
don't know.
rock.
Do they
That's
care about
not
those
really
things?
Gonna attract female
They care about
voters, is it?
crime? Care about inflation, grocery prices,
Yeah,
those things? I don't know.
No, it won't. But I also think that
What's up,
just
Drew?
like he did in the first debate against Joe Biden, I think the formula
We
here
got a new
is
baby.
to constantly tie Kamala Harris to the Biden administration, which
It's a
is where
real
Trump
boy.
is winning against her on the economy, inflation, and all these other problems that we're having. And then sit back and let her talk. Let her explain herself, her past positions, current positions. How does she feel about how Biden has done on the economy? How does she feel about the border? Then turn it over and let her talk.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us tonight, Donna and Reince. We're all staying tuned. Can't wait.
All right,
And I have to
1
say,
minute.
as we are just a couple of less than 2 minutes away, this such an extraordinary moment, and especially, Rachel, when you consider that these two people that have been the center of our lives for the last 2 months have never met each other.
Have never even met each other. And Harris said, if you got something to say it to my face. The question tonight, does Donald Trump actually go there? He's questioned her racial identity. He's questioned her intelligence as well. Or does he stick to the issues?
Look, this is the largest audience they're likely going to have in this race. It will be interesting to see if Harris can make clear the stark choice before voters. And where does she decide to land her punches? She can punch hard. Can she do that while rising above the needling coming her way? But first and foremost, are we going to see a handshake when the two of them meet for the first time?
We didn't back in 2016 when I did that debate. We'll stand by to see that tonight. But the first time, side to side, together.
And I have my
it's gonna
doubts that
be
we're gonna see
happening
that
in
handshake, but
30
what we are gonna
seconds,
see
my
is a
friends.
spirited debate, and perhaps the most consequential general election debate we have ever seen, because almost certainly going to be the last one. So with the stakes so high, the presidential debate just moments away, we have the entire news division keeping an eye on everything. We are going to be fact-checking on our live blog. It's all going to be happening right here, the debate now.
Let's
just
go,
10
baby.
seconds
Woo!
away.
My friends,
We will be
super
back
grateful that you're
with our
here. Thank you for
post-game
joining
show
us tonight.
As soon as it's over. We are gonna
What
toss
a
it
night it's
right
going to
now
be.
to David Muir.
Let's go!
Tonight, the high-stakes showdown here in Philadelphia between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Their first face-to-face meeting in this presidential election, their first face-to-face meeting ever.
A historic race for president upended just weeks ago. President Biden withdrawing after his last debate. Donald Trump now up against a new opponent.
The candidates separated by the smallest of margins, essentially tied in the polls nationally and in the key battlegrounds, including right here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play. The ABC News presidential debate starts right now.
Woo!
This is an
Let's
ABC
go,
News
baby.
special. The most consequential moment of this campaign. Kamala Harris.
Together, we will chart a new way forward.
Donald Trump.
We will soon be a great nation again.
Yeah!
Historic. The ABC News presidential debate.
All right, I'm going to keep my comments to a minimum. Okay, they're coming out. Handshake. Kamala. Podium sizes.
Housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation has, which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression.
It was COVID.
Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
Oh, really? Pearl Harbor, 9/11.
What we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially.
Nice.
And create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back, and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Nice.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
Kamala looks annoyed.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse, mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know
Already in a
that
recession there,
Donald Trump
Kamala.
actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan. And it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this, because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have, and who's going to have higher prices, is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having, on the short end of the stick, in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that she was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
She's a China hawk now?
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that
Kamala.
she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump.
Yes.
Lindsay.
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years, they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote.
Yep.
And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President
Thanks for that fact check
well,
there.
as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not
a little
actually
tag team.
a surprising
Nice.
fact. Let's
No, they don't
understand how we
legalize
got
murder.
here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their
So
body
emotional.
does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot.
The hell is she talking
She didn't
about?
want that. Her husband didn't want that.
The hell is she talking
about? A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term? They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in
2 minutes up
particular
yet?
the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well,
to
I
your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said
Listen to her.
that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. what is happening in our country. Working people,
Trump
working
didn't
women
make those decisions.
who are working one or
The
two
states did.
jobs.
That's democracy
who
in
can
action.
barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
Yes or
the
no?
question? Would you
Because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the
Yes or
question.
no?
Would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside, and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to
Yes
turn
or
now
no,
to
Kamala?
immigration
Yes
and
or
border
no?
security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats,
No fact
voters
checks for
across the
Kamala on
board,
that
in this
segment.
country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America.
Root causes.
We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why
What a
did the
ridiculous
administration
question.
wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations
Sure you did.
for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings.
She lied about her record.
And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported.
Terrible bill.
And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now
Blah, blah, blah.
overtime, trying
Campaign
to do their
crap.
job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States.
No, it wouldn't have.
I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country.
Yeah, she
That
was going to
bill
leave
would have put
4,000
more
a month
resources
coming
to
in.
allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why?
It's a bad bill.
Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
Executive
And
orders.
understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised.
Because you've wrecked
And
it.
I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's
Yeah.
a really interesting thing to watch. You will see
Yeah.
during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about
It's a joke.
windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of
Oh,
exhaustion
she's trying to
and
agitate
boredom.
him, right?
And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so?
What
That
the
would have
hell
put
kind of
thousands
question is
additional
this?
agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there.
It's true.
And then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there had been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
We researched that.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken
and eaten.
used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from television.
But the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten
Good
by
for you, Trump.
the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence.
No one
of
cares who
Vice
that is.
President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme.
Eating dogs is extreme,
you
yeah.
know,
Your illegal
this
aliens
is,
did
I
that.
think one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain.
Oh, good.
Including
We don't
the
want 'em.
endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney
Ugh.
and Congress member
Have
Liz
'em.
Cheney. And
We don't want
if you
'em.
want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the Republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job. And they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president, in history by far.
Let me
people
continue
stand
on
with Trump.
immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you
These
would use
questions
the
are
National Guard.
amazing.
You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S.
With local
military.
police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me, the
President
FBI
Harris,
ABC
is sick.
Statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities
job,
with
Trump.
the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you.
Look at her tiny podium.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from
Lying
someone who
FBI.
has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing.
Wow.
And let's be clear.
By you.
Where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement.
Sick.
The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse
Oh
me.
my gosh.
Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the
Big Fanny.
Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory.
Dismissal.
2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
Jack Smith is
Thank you for
illegal.
a really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again.
That's not true.
Understand, this is...
She's a liar. You guys have already done that.
Because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people.
Vice President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized.
Yes. Yes.
lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking.
So dishonest.
My position is that
she loves
we have
fracking.
got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name-calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well,
response?
first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions.
Built the whole skyline.
And when people see it, they
Multiple
are even
cities.
surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now.
I'm
You
speaking.
don't mind, please.
I'm speaking.
Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis.
She did.
She went out and raised money to get them
Her
out of jail.
tweet is still up.
She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead, we'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out of it. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400,
President
500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot of
are not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment,
to.
as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis.
Here we go.
Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day.
A
The
rigged
officers
election and a
coming
failure
under
of
attack.
security intentionally
Aides in the West
created.
Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her.
True.
It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted?
Nowhere.
Or in Seattle. They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
you. You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election.
These guys are the worst.
Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that.
Should have sent the National Guard. How about that?
I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers.
Yes.
They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
They wanted it to happen.
About you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris.
Okay, David.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th.
Where were you with the pipe bomb?
I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there.
Where were you when with the pipe bomb?
On that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital.
Here we go.
To desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured.
Yeah.
And some died.
No, they didn't.
Understand, the
No, they
former
didn't. That is a
president
lie.
has been indicted and impeached for exactly
Not on that day.
reason.
Suicide.
But this is not an isolated situation.
Sicknick died
Let's
of natural
remember
causes.
Charlottesville,
Liar.
where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did
Fine
the
people.
president then at the time say?
Do it. Do it.
There were fine people on each side.
Liar!
Let's remember.
Liar!
That when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by.
Man, she is lying.
So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that
You're
was
in
a bridge
power.
too far for you, well, there is a place
Weirdo.
in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking.
In the auto industry.
Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
She's a shameless liar.
Let me just follow up here.
It was
Fact check her on
different
that.
term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up.
They're liars.
I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in.
You're
Mr.
no
President,
part of
for
that,
3.5 years
David.
after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide.
It was rigged.
In the past couple of weeks leading
Obviously.
up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say that.
sarcastically.
But
You know
those-
that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it.
Yep.
And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even
Yes,
know
they
what
are.
country they're in practically.
Yes, they are.
And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
Up 20% in Arizona.
These pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republican.
judge looked at it.
And said
They
there was
said
no
we
one.
didn't
Yeah, there
have
were standing issues,
That's the
latches,
other
and
thing.
other issues.
They said we didn't have standing, a technicality.
Nice.
Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you
Guarantee
Georgia,
they
and
don't.
I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right
Nice line.
now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it
Old
into
news.
decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker.
Here, hit T-ball.
He still believes
Here,
he
hit
did
it
not
up,
lose
Kamala.
the election.
Here, they just served it for you.
That was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
You have state media in
Donald
action
Trump
right
was
now.
fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in
That's
this
what they say
way,
about Walls.
in a presidential
You're
debate
lying,
and
stolen
deny
valor, vice president.
what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did, in fact, lose that election.
No, he
it
didn't.
leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look.
Then they allowed Zelensky to blow it up.
Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think
up.
we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel. Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen.
And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear they can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
All right, so they're going to cut to commercial. Let's do a little bit of a debrief on what is going on. Wow. First of all, Kamala Harris is a shameless liar. She is dropping lie after lie after lie. We've got a whole litany of them that we'll go through here, but some of them right out of the gates are the Fine People hoax that we obviously saw. She's talked about people dying on January 6th, which was Ashley Babbitt. And that's one of the biggest lies that we've heard on this one for a long time. Other officers died by suicide after the incident. Brian Sicknick died of natural causes after the incident. And they did a whole state funeral for him, trying to make it as though a cop got killed on January 6th. We learned a lot about what happened on January 6th when we covered the truth about the Proud Boys trial, where the government admitted, even in that trial, that there were 8 FBI undercover human sources or other agents who were there on the day. Remember, there were 5 Proud Boy defendants, 8 feds from the FBI that the government admitted to. And in addition to that, the defense team identified at least 50 other Homeland Security investigation officials who were on the government's dole, that they couldn't get introduced into evidence at the Proud Boys trial. So the whole thing was rigged. We're talking about 10, maybe 11 to 1 against the Proud Boys of government ops to criminal defendants. And so they prosecuted them aggressively in the aftermath there. Now, Kamala is, I would say, performing better than I expected. She's got her talking points in order. She's coming to play for sure. It's a lot of platitude. I was thinking the words that were coming to my mind were pathos. We talk a lot about ethos, logos, and pathos, sort of an appeal to reason, an appeal to logic, an appeal to authority. Then we also have an appeal to emotion. And boy, do we have a lot of that here. Kamala is just very much a lot of dark doom and gloom language about how Trump is going to, wreck American democracy and so on and so forth. But ABC News has been pathetic. They have been setting these things up like T-ball so that Kamala can just come out and hit him. They asked Trump, why didn't you act more quickly on January 6th? What were you doing back there? And then they go to Kamala and they're like to Kamala, well, are you concerned that he's going to prosecute American opponents of the election? She's like, yeah, you know what? Now that you mention it, I am upset about it. Trump has gotten multiple fact checks. Lindsay Davis is coming out. And Lindsay Davis, you want to do a little fact check on this? Lindsay, how about this? Here's a video while we're waiting for the commercial to wrap up. Here's a video of exactly what Trump was talking about. The governor saying, we've got birth abortions.
Boy, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So I think this was...
Then a discussion would ensue. And what are they going to talk about? Eliminating the kid, all right? Killing the baby. So why is the governor of North Virginia, straight from Ralph Northam's mouth, why is that out there in the interwebs if they're fact-checking Trump that it's not happening? How's this for a fact check? A police report in Ohio, a police report and audio confirmed that Haitian goose hunting in Ohio is actually happening. They all had geese in their hands, okay, was part of the report. They all had geese in their hands, all right. We got to save the geese in America, okay? A recording of a police phone call obtained by the Federalist reveals a local resident saying that a group of Haitian migrants were carrying 4 geese in Springfield, Ohio. How's that for a fact check? Someone says, I'm sitting here, I'm riding on the trail. I'm going to my orientation for my day job. I see a group of Haitian people. There were about 4 of them. They all had geese in their hands. The caller told the public service dispatcher. According to a police report, the call was placed here. And you can see, here's the call. For crying out loud. They're eating the geese. Man, they're eating the geese. And this is the police report. Looks like we might be coming back to the debate, and we're here.
Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again, David Muir and Lindsay
Liars.
Davis.
Welcome back to this historic ABC News presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are.
It's their continent.
They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is
They want it to go on.
Dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here...
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also, as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania.
She's a war general now.
And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we
because you're paying the bill,
understand
Kamala.
the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO.
Ugh, gross.
And what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan
Glad
came up
that
in
was
the
a long
last
2
hour.
minutes, I'll tell you what.
I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and now, please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow and he wouldn't have lost 300,000
Nice.
men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times.
And given him billions.
It has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength.
Did you meet Putin or not?
That the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief.
Yeah.
And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war.
No, it's going to Zelensky
and as
now.
of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
People falling off of airplanes.
I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black.
Yeah, neither
and now
did
she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
Well, that's all you guys talk about.
I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less.
Yeah, thank you.
Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm asking.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who
shapeshifts
wants to be president who has consistently over
lied
the course
about a
of
race
his career attempted to use race to divide the American people.
That's your whole party,
you know,
Kamala.
I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States.
Well, where was he born?
And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
Wow.
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden.
Yes.
I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time's up.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country.
You're in the White
One
House
who
right now.
believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people.
I don't like that high
believe
pitch.
in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan.
Where is yours?
To give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction.
Wow.
To pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you
Buying off
in
for
that
voters.
most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight.
Just platitudes.
As opposed
Useless
to a conversation
platitudes.
that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's
Thank you,
what
Mr.
her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
President
because
Trump-
no, the
President
former
Trump-
president has said
No, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry. We're
I just
going
need
to
to
move
respond
on, Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this
multiple
is now your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones, too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if
ask Kamala that question.
I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made.
She has no plan.
I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So
Kamala
stop
is?
with the continuous lying about this stuff.
Wow.
As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, let's
What'd she
just
have?
look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said, at the time because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
More big
Pass
government
it
plans, got it.
in terms of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot
She made a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Climate change.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
All right, so they're going to do one more break. We'll keep our eye on it and see what they're doing. So they're going to cut to commercial, and we'll continue our fact check of Kamala Harris and these shameless ABC producers and these moderators. It's pretty bad out there, but look, here's another story about those botched abortions. Oh yes, from the Daily Signal. Under Tim Walz, babies are born alive in botched abortions. They were left to die. And then he removed the reporting requirements. Oh, so you can see here, this is one article from Mary Margaret Olahan. Shout out to Mary. She's at Mary Marg Olahan. Says under a 2015 law, the state was required to report whether abortions resulted in the live birth of a baby. Right? That's how this works. They do an abortion, the baby's alive, then they got to kill the baby. What actions are taken to preserve the life of the baby? Questions about whether the baby survived. They don't want to talk about it, so they just got rid of the reporting requirements. The reporting requirements exposed that between January 1st and December 31st in the year of 2021, physicians performed 5 abortions that resulted in a baby's live birth. No measures were taken to help the first baby, who reportedly had fetal anomalies and resulted in death shortly after delivery. 2 of the babies were giving comfort care measures as they died. No measures were taken to preserve the life of the last 2 babies who were pre-viable. All right, so babies are coming out alive. They're just leaving them there to die. Comfort care measures as they die, whatever that means. I don't even know what that means. Pretty sick situation. But just comfort the baby while the baby dies. Now, between January 2019 and December 2019, 3 abortions resulted in born alive babies that were then allowed to die. The first baby reportedly had fetal anomalies, also had residual cardiac activity, and no efforts were taken to preserve that baby's life. The infant did not survive. For 2 minutes. Yeah, the second baby died while comfort care measures were provided. The third baby was pre-viable, did not receive any attempts to preserve his or her life. Now, it does not appear that any of the babies born alive in botched abortions survived, right? So they all died. They bring the babies out and then they're just dead. Now, due to efforts by the state governor who served, Minnesota will no longer keep track of the babies because they don't want you to really know about it. So they'd rather just not talk about it. Same thing's happening with the crime rates, the crime statistics. Oh, crime's going down. No, you're not reporting it. And the list of lies goes on and on and on. Now, you also saw this. We've talked about this before here. But Snopes also confirmed Trump did not call anyone fine people, right? It's a hoax. It's a total hoax. Snopes has confirmed this. But Joe Biden, this was the basis of Joe Biden's entire campaign, according to him. And Kamala brought this up. Here's another lie from Snopes. Nope. Trump did say that there were very fine people on both sides, but he was referring to the protesters and the counter-protesters. He said in the same statement he was not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists. In fact, he said that they should be condemned totally. So Kamala is just lying. That's all she does, is just get up there and lie. And the media is not giving us any fact checks about any of this. You see more here. Here's the police report talking about specifically the Haitians. The reporting party said he could tell they were Haitians because he was within earshot and he could hear them speaking Haitian Creole, but he could not get a complete license plate or a photo of them. And they were the people who were taking the geese. 4 geese were stolen by the Haitians. 4 geese were stolen. But dumb boy David Muir can't figure it out. He talked to somebody who's a city manager, and that was good enough for him. And so they're fact-checking Trump out there. It's 3 versus 1. And I know it probably feels a little uncomfortable out there, but I actually think this is a good thing. I think Trump's doing well, and it's a 3 versus 1 situation. They're treating him as the incumbent, okay? They're throwing everything they have at him. Every single question has been rigged against him. They're setting up P-ball situations to try to help Kamala. And Trump is withstanding the storm. We knew it was going to be unfair. We didn't know it was going to be this unfair. We're back.
Welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements. And Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight 2 very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us, and we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition
What is your plan?
Of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like We're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughing. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe
sick.
toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump.
Well done,
thank
Mr. President.
you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
Good night, and thanks for watching our Democratic hack hit job, which was focused on
and
Trump.
We are here live on ABC.
Trump
with our
left.
Post-debate comments. I'm Martha Raddatz. It was a lively debate from the economy to abortion.
It was a rigged debate. All right, so let's talk about this. So, first of all, I think Kamala performed better than we expected. She came out, she had her facts in alignment, and the media set her up very, very nicely, much more so than we were expecting. We thought that Jake Tapper and Dana Bash might have set the tone, and that ABC News would come out and be actual honest journalists and have a real conversation with America. But they didn't. They just set up Kamala Harris like a T-ball game. They were throwing fastballs at Trump. They were saying, how come you didn't do this, and you didn't do this, and you didn't do this? And then Kamala, they would just turn over to her and say, well, what do you think about that? She's like, I can't believe that. I know. You guys are totally right. Trump is just terrible. And so it was a tag team. It was a 3-on-1. I do have some notes that we can run through together. Let me just show you what I was writing down as we were going through this today. A couple thoughts. First and foremost, ABC is a disgrace. Now, one thing I thought was appropriate was that they treated Trump like he was the incumbent here, okay, like he's the sitting president. It was a 3-on-1, and they were only talking about him. Well, Trump, you say you can do this thing, and you've done this thing, and it was very, very Trump focused. It was all about Trump. We learned nothing really about Kamala's substance or what she intends to do. It was just how Trump is bad. The whole thing was about Trump is bad. We didn't get much about Kamala. Now, as I mentioned, they would set Trump up with a criticism, then they would ask Kamala her opinion about that criticism. So the one example that we saw clear as day on this was when they asked Trump about his reaction on January 6th, which I thought he handled brilliantly, by the way, saying, I was just going to bring one thing I would do differently, 10,000 National Guard. The one that I demanded be provided that they rejected, we would actually do that. If I could change one thing, it would be that Nancy Pelosi didn't fail the security. If I could change one thing, Mayor Muriel Bowser would have accepted what we intended to do, and they wouldn't have allowed this to happen. So I thought that they did this, it was a pattern over and over. Then they would ask Trump a hard question, then they'd go to Kamala, and they said to Kamala, well, he just threatened to arrest everybody. And you're like, what on earth? We learned nothing about Kamala. It was all just Trump bashing. We learned nothing about her policy. She said, I have a plan multiple times, but didn't actually have a plan. They were fact-checking Trump on this throughout the debate, and they lied about the fact checks. And we have a couple quick examples of those, obviously. They lied about the geese. We've got police reports and audio reports from civilians calling in saying they're eating the geese. We have partial birth abortions where babies are born alive and then left to die. In fact, Tim Walz is now no longer even keeping track of those dying babies because they don't want to talk about it. We also had the Fine People hoax. Was a total lie. Kamala brought it up repeatedly because she's a liar. But the story continues. Obviously, there was some questions on the abortion stuff. They were very, very interested in abortion. And there was some weird stuff on abortion. She was really interesting. She said that there was a lot of pathos in this, okay, a lot of emotional appeals. She was basically speaking to the pro-abortion lobby of the Democratic Party and explaining how they better get involved or else things are going to be bad. Remember, there was one analysis or one story where she said, I think something like people were going to be bleeding out in the back of their cars if they don't get abortions. Like there's going to be like bloodiness happening somewhere. Strange. But lots of pathos, lots of Putin is going to march across Europe, right? Lots of that stuff, which I think is just pure appeals to emotion. Nothing even that interesting. Now, there was more lying. There was the town clerk call that ABC News said that they made. Well, the town clerk said this. We have a police report. It's right here. There are videos. There are people on the internet talking about it. Not your place to fact check. That's where we can do it. Now, they also said that Trump had 60 court cases fail and it's all been decided and all litigated. We were covering that litigation here. We went through it in detail. We saw how many cases were dismissed on mootness or latches or standing issues, right? All sorts of different reasons and justifications for it. And the investigations ultimately went virtually nowhere, right? So that's just another lie. There was the rigged questions on immigration deportation. Remember, they were explaining asking Trump how you are going to get rid of 11 million people. Did they ask Kamala any specifics about any of her actual policies? Hey, Kamala, how are you going to create your opportunity economy? How are you going to do it? She couldn't. They didn't even ask the question. They just let her talk in these abstract platitudes that are totally meaningless. And again, the abortion stuff was another rigged question. They asked Trump about his specifics. Would you sign this bill if it lands on your desk? Why didn't they ask Kamala about Tim Walz and him not reporting dead babies who land on the desks of doctors doing abortions, so-called? Now, and here's another question. Did she meet Putin or not? They asked that one follow-up question, but then she didn't answer it because she's probably just a liar. Now, we also saw the Fine People hoax was a lie. The dead officers on January 6th was a lie. She called it the worst attack on American democracy, which is laughable because we had, 9/11 in Pearl Harbor. Americans died those days, a lot of them. And those were from pretty serious incidents like, bombs and airplanes. This was one Capitol Hill police officer who shot a woman called Ashley Babbitt, who should not have been shot. And that guy was an incompetent police officer. That was the same guy who left his gun in the public toilet when he was taking a dump there in D.C. And they gave Sicknick a state dinner, and the state media, the propaganda people that are in charge of everything now, created a whole hoax around it that she is now promulgating. She lied about not eating pets. She lied about no partial birth abortions. She brought up Project 2025. Now, I think Trump did a good job of addressing that. I thought Trump said, doesn't know anything about it. You guys are just shameless liars about this. She talked about tariffs being sales tax, even though they kept a bunch of the tariffs. And she also lied about Trump's immunity decision, which is something we've talked a lot about here. He's not immune from all conduct. Hello, if it's criminal conduct, you're not immune from that. You are just upset because you tried to prosecute him for stuff that it is and has been functionally immune for 234 years. And now because you don't like Trump, you're trying to take him out. So Trump, I think, hit things right. I think he did a good job here. He distanced himself from Project 2025, which was this fake story that they were trying to smear him with. They can't actually smear Trump on any of his policies because they're good policies. And if they bring those up, people are going to say, oh, you stole that from Trump, just like you stole no tax on tips and those things. So he distanced himself from that. He says, I am who I am. And in fact, he reversed this. And we saw this very nicely at the end in the closing statements where he says, Kamala is Joe Biden. They're the same person. It's the same administration. She's not this new interesting figure who is now going to come and solve all these problems. It is the same person. She's terrible. And then as we saw, a lot of border, and how this is becoming the biggest problem in America because it trickles down into everything else, right? The illegal aliens don't bring with them houses or jobs or other resources. We got to give it to them. And you know where that comes from? Us. So Trump had a couple good zingers in there. he said one line in there that he was going to send her a MAGA hat. Of course, enjoyed that one. We also saw him say, I'm speaking. Okay. Does that sound familiar? So a couple good zingers. I don't think she really had any good zingers in there, but those were some good ones. And of course, the question is, will there be another debate? Will Harris do another debate? I doubt it. I think that's enough for her. Her team did what they needed to do. Quite frankly, they checked the boxes. She didn't sound incompetent. She sounded a little bit unhinged, a little bit kind of ranty and hysterical. And then she went into that joyous mode. We need more joy. Like she started to talk to us like she was talking to those high schooler kids in that high school where she says, you're going to save the world. So she was prepared. I think she did a good job hitting their lies, right? Shameless liar, but she did it. She checked all the Democratic boxes. Like if you're playing, anti-Trump bingo, you want her to hit all the things. And so she did that. Now, the question is this going to work out for them? I think that many people watch that and they realize this was a rigged debate. ABC was tag teaming on Trump. And it's a pretty pathetic thing for them to allow her to talk about all the things she talked about without fact checking her. If they're going to fact check Trump, okay, fact check her. But there are multiple lies. It took us 2 seconds to find all of this stuff. All right, 2 seconds to find that Snopes called her a liar. There's literal police reports that apparently the town person can't find. Tim Walz is now eliminating partial birth abortion reporting, and so on and so forth. And so I think that this is going to backfire. And I'm not alone in that analysis. In fact, I just came across this one from the great and powerful Megyn Kelly. She just posted this as the pile on against Trump is so bad and so obvious, this is going to backfire, right, from Megyn Kelly. She's done a debate or two. She says these moderators are a disgraceful failure, and this is one of the most biased and unfair debates I have ever seen. Shame on you, ABC. Stephen Miller said, why didn't the debate moderators fact check Kamala Harris on the Fine People hoax? Well, we know why. Because they love her lies. Cernovich said, it's obvious that ABC gave Harris the questions in advance when you compare her answers to softball questions compared to her rebuttals when she had to think on her feet. So it wouldn't surprise me, right? Everything else is rigged. In the Democrats, they rigged their primary against RFK and Jill Stein. They rigged the actual primary against Joe Biden and cooed him out. They've been cheating for years. So what's the difference here? We know that Donna Brazile cheated in 2016 with Hillary Clinton, so why wouldn't they cheat here? It makes sense to me. But my friends, what a debate. Now, there's going to be a lot of analysis. There's going to be a lot of spin on this. A lot of the time, the spin is as important as the debate. And so we'll see. I fully expect the media to be hyperventilating over this and to just be as thrilled as can be with Kamala's performance. And I will agree. I think she did better than we thought that she would do. We didn't realize that she was going to be getting a booster seat from the moderators so easily, but they just set her up and she could just, the questions to her, almost every one of them, were framed as criticisms against Trump. So it was another operation from ABC, but we're hopeful that the people can see through that because it was pretty obvious. It was pretty transparent. And I think Trump held his own in a 3-on-1 battle, did what he needed to do. There was no real climactic events here. I don't think anybody is going to be losing support here, but the question is going to be a lot about the spin and the analysis. And so we'll be, of course, covering that when we're back here tomorrow for our debrief. But on the night, my friends, we had some amazing donations and super chats come in. Thank you so much for sending those in. And for our friends on Locals, it's about to boot us off of our first stream. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up another tube for our Locals friends, and the stream will carry on here in just a short second. So let me make this change, my friends, and then we're going to jump into your comments. We're going to see what everybody says about this. It has been a beautiful night, and I think that the performance was good from the president. I think that the performance from ABC was disgraceful, but that's about what we expected. So Locals friends, we're going to kick on a new feed for you. So check that out right now. Locals is coming on. Now, my friends, let's hear from you. Let's see what you say about this. We're going to keep our eyes on other reaction that's out there, keep our eyes on what's happening on ABC, see if they have any good guests that pop in. But let's debrief it now. Let's see what you say about it. It's a lot of great comments in the House, and we got some really nice new membos in. So, my friends, thank you so much. New membos, first of all, thanks for joining. And friends inviting the new membos, thanks for bringing them in. Very grateful to have you here. We do members-only streams in the morning. We did a great stream this morning. We'll have a great stream tomorrow morning. We can't wait to see you. What's up? Tony Hay Munkets is bringing in 5 new membos. Thank you, Tony Hay. Our friend Zulu, modding the fort down for us. Another 10 membos coming in. Zulu, you rock. Wendy Donnelly, man, you guys rock. Thank you for bringing in all these new membos. Wendy Donnelly, 10 more membos coming in courtesy of you. Our members-only stream in the morning is going to be lit. What's up? Sheila Poo, a million hugs to you. 10 more membos. That's a lot of membos. You guys rock. Thank you for doing this. And there's going to be more coming. Hey, what's up, brothers in the house? Says, glad to be able to catch a stream live. Let's go. That's a baby and a month. Shout out to brother. Thanks for being here for 10 full months. That's full term. We got Tony Hay Munkets, 5 more membos gifted in the house, courtesy of Tony Hay. And we got a real baby in the house. Drew M. just gave birth, says, Jack may not be a real boy, but this is a real baby. That's right. Jack Smith is not a real boy. But ours is. What's up, Drew? Oni's in the house, shouting out Trump. Been a membo for 1 month. First month's the hardest. Gets easier from there. Ollie, what's up? 5 membos gifted in as membos. Thank you, Ollie, for bringing the new membos in. Rachel Schuler just became a YouTube membo. Great to see you, Rachel. Thanks for becoming a membo. We'll see you tomorrow morning. William Holiday says, hey, Rob, quick question about RFK Jr. Can he appeal to the SCOTUS about removing his name from the ballot in Michigan? Yeah, he can, but I don't know that they're going to act before the election. And honestly, I think that they would probably just defer to the state at this moment. They would just defer to the state and allow that to happen. So what's up, William Holiday? We got this one from Mama Bear. Mama Bear just became a new YouTube member. What's up, Mama Bear? Welcome aboard. And look at this, more membos coming in. Glenn Croy, 10 membos coming in, courtesy of Glenn. My friends, welcome aboard. Tony Hay Munkets, 5 more membos. 10 more from Glenn. Amazing, Glenn. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Tony Hay. You guys are awesome. We've got Mythical Nice Guy. Just became another membo too. Tomorrow's going to be lit. What's up? Granny Joe's in the house. Says, thank you for this live stream. Thank you for being a member for 6 full months. It's great to have you here. 2/3 of the way to that baby. The Frog Feeder says, thanks for streaming for us, Rob. Got to spread my love between my 3 favorite YouTube channels. You are my only paid sub. That's awesome, Frog Feeder. Shout out to the other YouTubers out there too on this day. We're all fighting for you. We're all fighting for you. It's good. It's good for you. We're all fighting. It makes the content better. It's good. It's free market capitalism, except for YouTube, who's commie. What's up? Pritchie says, been a while, guys. Lots going on in UK time. Missed the live streams. Can't wait for another cluster tonight. YouTube adverts every 2 minutes. So I turned them off on this feed. So I turned them off while the debate was live so that we wouldn't be interrupted. So hopefully you did not get interrupted. So I turned those off. I think it was on at the beginning, but I turned those off while we were live. So thanks for becoming membos, right? It's an amazing way we can do that. So thanks for becoming membos and supporting us with the donos. We can turn those ads off so that they don't pop up in the middle of something like this. Chippewa Joe, what's up? Trump 2024, baby. Let's get at it. 4 months as a membo. We got Michelle Perkins bringing in 5 more as well. Good to see you, Michelle. Thanks for bringing in 5 membos. What's up? Acid Burn is in the house. Says, I bet Harris runs off the stage. I think they walked off, but she was probably running in her mind. What's up? Michael Waller. Thank you, Michael Waller. Fight, fight, fight is the emoji and a nice dono on the night. Thank you, Michael Waller, for that. Hey, Lost Cause, what's up? Let's go! 11 months as a membo, 1 more month, then it's a full year. Happy almost anniversary, Lost Cause. Jack Mack is in the house. Jack, thank you for this. What a nice dono. Says, well, Martha, there are many females out here that aren't so fragile that they can't see beyond what the media tells them should upset them. Yawn. I wish these media figureheads would stop telling us how women are supposed to feel and think. Well, yeah, I mean, if you don't feel what Kamala tells you to feel, and if you don't think what Kamala tells you to feel, to think, then you might be a person with an independent mind. That's dangerous. We can't have independent-minded women thinking for themselves. You have to think that abortion is the #1 issue in America. You don't need to worry about your economics or your dollar or your crime or your border or your kids' education or any of those things. Well, what kids? Abort them. Abort everything. Thank you, Jack. Yeah, it's very condescending. They do this to many demographics. They just say that we know what's best for you. So we're going to lock you down in your homes and you're going to shove this in your body. Yeah. Jennifer, what's up, Jennifer? Sends in a nice super sticker. Thank you, Jennifer, for that one. Great to see you. We got George Peabody became a new member. What's up? New YouTube member, George. Lots of new members today, man. I'm honored, humbled. Patty Rogers. Welcome, Patty. We'll see you tomorrow morning on our debrief. And Jack Mack says, you fools better have your MAGA red on. Yeah, I've got my MAGA red shirt on. It's kind of a maroon red, but I've also got my MAGA red booty shorts on. My MAGA red booty shorts. That name was given to me by Stephen Gardner. Shout out to Stephen Gardner. What's up? Sheila Poo in the house. 10 membos gifted courtesy of Sheila Poo. Tomorrow is going to be so lit. We're going to have so many new faces. It's going to be like the first day of high school. Like, who are all these people? Where is this coming? What's happening? What's up, John Libby? Go Rob, go Rob, go Rob. Thank you, John. I say go, John. Thanks for being here. It was all about go Trump tonight. And it was, I think, a good performance in light of what we were up against. What's up, King Ginger? Says 30 seconds in, she already sounds drunk, LOL. She sounded, I don't know if drunk, yeah, it's Kamala, so she might have been drunk. Tina Lewis says, has she answered a question yet? Not really. They just talked about how bad Trump is and how much they hate Trump. Ill Mike, what's up? Lil Mike and the Kez show, Lil Mike and Kez, say, what is an elect again? Well, it's like an election, but you're doing it again. So it's an elect again, is what it is. Hey, what's up? Run, spot, run, says Philip Butler. That's what her policy is. We're going to have an opportunity economy. And Democrats are like, yeah, I know what that word means. I love opportunity. What's up, Glenn Croy? 5 more membos coming in. Thank you, Glenn, for bringing in the 5 membos. Super great to have you. Welcome aboard, friends. Ray Ronk says, her team coached her well. Stick to emotion. I agree. I think that she was well coached. She hit the talking points. She had a nice outline. She did what she needed to do. There's no mincing that. She didn't Joe Biden it, that's for sure. North Star, what's up? 5 months as a membo. Democrats always vote no for born alive bills. Why is that? Like if no babies are being aborted in 7th, 8th, or 9th trimesters or months in the 3rd trimester, why don't they just sign those bills? How come that's so complicated? What's up? Charles Gent says, what a lie. A national abortion monitor? What? What the heck is that? Now with it in the states, the people have actual control. And I think you're right about that. And this is the thing. Hey, Kamala, if you want a national abortion ban, just have Congress pass it. Or a national abortion law that women can just, yeet their babies right out of the windows, drive through at the DNC if they want to, that's fine. But if all of that is the case, then why don't they just pass the bill? Why don't they just pass the bill nationally? Well, they can't do it, that's why. What's up? Ficali in the house became a new YouTube member. Great to see you, Ficali. We have Charles Gent says, what happens to muting the mics? Well, I think Kamala's mic was on one of those exchanges because I heard her speaking while Trump was speaking. Great question, Charles. I think there will probably be some more analysis on that. But they gave her a little podium. They probably turned her mic on. We could still hear them when they were trying to speak over each other. You could still hear that in the background. So, yeah, they were helping. Stadia Dispatch, what's up, Stadia? Says, missed opportunity for Trump to say the Biden administration didn't care about bodily autonomy when they tried to force another medical treatment. Yeah, I like that line too. Like they really care about what you do with your body unless they want you to take a pharmaceutical from Pfizer. Then you're anti-science if you don't take it and you're killing your fellow citizen. So just take it. Here's one from Sheila Poo says, it is as I suspected. Their questions are making it so Trump is debating 3 people because of their commentary that is part of the so-called question. Yeah, the questions, the premise of the questions were just, the format was, Trump, why did you do a bad thing? And then he'd answer. And then they would go to Kamala and say, well, what's your opinion on him doing that bad thing? What happened there? And so the whole thing was talking about Trump doing bad things. And you're like, well, Kamala's been in charge. Why don't you fact check her on the border and how many immigrants have come in illegally? What's up, Jack Max says, I thought that their microphones were supposed to be shut off while the other one was talking, but it doesn't seem like that's happening. So you caught that too. There was at least one of those exchanges where Kamala's mic was definitely on and she was sniping back over on Trump. Charles Gant, what's up, says, there she goes. Yeah, here comes his lawfare response. He's going to club her on that. And he did. I think Trump did a good job of saying it was rigged and that they're prosecuting him politically. He talked about the classified documents case being dismissed. He brought up the Joe Biden thing being dismissed against Joe Biden when it should have been prosecuted against him. But it's really hard to make that defense in 2 minutes. It's really hard to talk about that in 2 minutes, which is why they brought it up. What's up? Judy Hubbard. Thank you, Judy. Says, thank you for the great job you do. Well, thank you, Judy. On nights like tonight, I can hardly take any credit for it, okay? Basically just sit here and enjoy the ride with you, my friends. Just like, what the hell's going on here? We're in it together. Thank you, Judy. What's up from Ray Ronk says, Trump just won the debate. Sound familiar? It was a good zinger, for sure. I'm speaking, Kamala. Stop it, please. Stop talking. I'm speaking. Sound familiar? It was good. It was good. I enjoyed that one for sure. What's up? Jean is in the house. She grew up in Canada. She is still Canadian. Yeah, and I think her parents were like both professors at Berkeley or something. I think I grew up middle class. Okay. You go to like the best schools and then travel to Canada. I think she had plenty of money. What's up? Carolyn Gilligan, 2 months as a member. First month's the hardest, says, I'm talking now. I'm talking now. Trump called it out. What's up? Bobsco is bringing in one new member. Thank you, Bobsco. We've got Billie Jean Salas in the house, became a new YouTube member. We got Zulu is in the house, bringing in 10 more members and modding the fort down for us. Thank you, Zulu, for doing that and bringing in our new members. Sheila Pooh, a million hugs, says, yes, I was waiting for that answer. Whichever one that was, I'm sure it was a good one. The Frog Feeder says, what does the Getting report say right now? Huh? Good question, the Frog Feeder. John Libby says, she need Tim's, her eyes are about to tear up talking about January 6th. I know, she was very emotional tonight. Very emotional, trying to get her base riled up. What's up? Core Values became a new member. Core Values America in the house. Dark Snyder, 14 months as a member. Dark Insider here says, thank you for everything you do, Rob. Thank you, Dark Insider. Thanks for saying that, my friend. And thanks for being here for 14 months. It's a long time. We've seen some stuff. We got extra gray hairs now. MJ Powell, 5 members coming in, courtesy of MJ. MJ, thank you very much. Welcome aboard, new friends. Sheila P. says, ask her if that means when Trump wins, they will leave and make certain that their cronies in Congress don't follow through with their plan to make it so he is not instated. Yeah, how about that? If Trump wins the election, do you agree to leave the White House? Do you agree to have a peaceful transition of power? You've called Trump the greatest threat to American democracy since the Civil War. So are you going to leave and give him the power? Do you agree that you'll oppose any Democratic efforts to stop Trump from taking power once he wins? Do you agree? Charles Gent says, other than Stephanopoulos, this is the worst debate moderation I've ever seen. It was bad. The way, I think Chris Wallace was also bad, like really bad. He was really bad. But this was also bad. The way that they're acting as fact checkers with lies, they're literal lies. Like, well, maybe not literal lies. Like he says, I talked to the town manager and he hasn't heard anything. Okay. Did you check anywhere else? Or was that one convenient fact enough for you to just regurgitate that to your audience? Because there's clearly a police report and there's other videos and other people talking about this. They're walking around with pictures with geese. You're right about that, Charles. What's up? B. Torn is here. Says Trump has to call these two Chris Wallace, there you go, hacks out. Exactly. Chris Wallace was really bad too, like epically bad. And I think he like wrecked his career, honestly, after that, as he should. What's up? Dean Gilbury, 5 membos coming in, courtesy of Dean. Thank you, Dean. Welcome aboard, new friends. Dean's not even a membo, bringing in new membos. That's how generous he is. Thank you, Dean. What's up? Hilo, 3 months as a membo, says she knows she can lie and claim to be moderate, and the media will cover it up. 5 years ago, we just read the ACLU document that we started at the start of this stream, filled with lefty lies. They didn't fact check her on any of those or even ask about them. They didn't ask her about, do you still want to pay for genital surgery, removal surgery for illegal aliens in detention? No fact checks on that one. Acid Burn says, why don't Trump look at her? Because she would run. Yeah, the not looking at somebody thing is kind of a tactic. It's kind of a debate tactic. It really can kind of mess with other people. You'll see this happen in court sometimes. Like officers won't look at you. So like you'll be cross-examining an officer and he won't even look at you. He just looks at the jury. It's kind of unsettling. You're like, what's up with this guy? You're like talking to him this way, he's talking over here. You can go stand in front of him or whatever. But of course, it's a fun little tactic. What's up, CL? He needs to say that talk about her lying about Biden's mental state. Yeah, I was kind of surprised that didn't come up either. Kamala's just a liar. She lies about Joe Biden's capacity, amongst many other things. What's up, Ike's Girl in the house? Good to see you, Ike's Girl. Says, gotta watch the body language guys on the debate. I'm sure that'll be good. Those guys do good content. Yeah, what was Kamala? She kind of looked uncomfortable. B. Torn says, delegates for Joe Biden. There were 3,900 uncommitted. Dean Phillips had 37. Jason Palmer had 5. Kamala Harris had 3. 0. Kamala Harris had 0. Okay, 0 delegates. One of these two was robbed by the party. Dean Phillips and Jason Palmer, because the Democrats are partisan hacks. What's up? Sheila Poo, a million hugs to you, says, if she knew the questions ahead, she's doing even worse because she isn't actually answering the questions. Yeah, she just wanted to talk in her bullet points and her platitudes, and she did a good job on that and didn't answer anything, but she talked much better than Joe did. Zulu says, look, I'm a huge member. Zulu, this is a family show, but you are huge, 31 months, man. That's like, how many babies is that? I don't know. My multiples of 9 stop after about 1. But all right, so that's pretty good. Zulu, 31 months as a member. We've seen some serious stuff, brother. That's for sure. I think this is our second election, maybe. That 31 months? Well, you were probably around before the election even started, but Zulu, thanks for being here, brother. What's up? This one from Carolyn Gilligan. Thank you, Carolyn. Thanks for being a membo. No comment on this, but thanks for sending in some love and support today. We appreciate it. We got Okie, Texas girl. 7 months as a membo. Great question. I'm wondering the same thing. What is the time split? And did you also notice the pattern where ABC the pattern would be, ask Trump a question ridiculous about Trump. Why are you such an evil person? Why are you such a monster, Trump? Then they go to Kamala. Well, why do you think he's a monster? And then she would answer, and then they'd say, now it's time to move on. Okay, so next question. Why did you kill Grandma? Kamala, why do you think he killed Grandma? And Trump would say, can I respond? Next question, we'd like to move on, please. Like that pattern over and over again. Then Trump would continue to interject, but how did that break down in terms of time? What's up? Willie Louthen says, not the geese. 5 months as a membo. We got to save the geese, man. We got Charles Gent says, she was sent over to see if she could head the war off. The Russians didn't show up to the meeting, and then the war started. They saw it coming so clearly, and yet somehow they couldn't stop it. Why is that? Yeah, because they wanted it. And then the Biden administration lied about who blew up Nord Stream and many other things and made us think it was the Russians when we knew it was Zelensky and his crew and the CIA. What's up to Sheila Poo? And why did they do that? Why did they rig this? Because Joe and Lama are weak. Exactly right, Sheila Poo. That's why they had to make Trump the incumbent tonight and wage war against him in a 3-on-1 onslaught. Raider Gaines says, since when can a VP share U.S. military intel? It's a good question. I don't know that they follow any rules in that administration. Jennifer O'Connell, thank you for the nice dono, Jennifer. Very nice to have you here. Another one from Sheila Poo says, division by race is sowed by the Democrats. And their entire party is on this basis. You cannot just be an American. You have to be some other category. Asian American, Hispanic American, African American, any of them, right? Just pick one. Except white American or like Christian, American or like straight American or any of those things. You can't really talk about that. Otherwise, you're a Nazi. But yeah, that's all they do. They talk about race all the time. Their whole identity is based around it. In fact, they have Democrats who are even changing their identity, like that one Rachel Dolezal woman who says, I am black. You're like, no, you're not. Yes, I am. Kind of like Kamala. Hey, Sheila, thank you. We had this one come in from Batorn, says, say it, Trump. It's confession through projection. Confession through projection from Batorn. We had this one from Jennifer O'Connell. What's up, Jennifer? Says, I'm a single disabled woman trying to raise a daughter, fighting for disability for 11 years, and I need $10,000 for heat and water. So Kamala can GFSF. Sounds like a colorful acronym there, Jennifer O'Connell. We're going to send some love and prayers your way, obviously. You know, that's a tough fight. We love our single moms out there. Amazing. So shout out to our single moms who are trying to make it work. Jennifer, thanks for that. We appreciate you being here and supporting us with that dono. And thanks for being a good mom. What's up to Dan Malone? Trump 2024, baby. Probably a great flag at the end of that one. Thank you, Dan, for sending that in. Thanks, Dan, for being a membo, too. We have Beth is here. Says, what's that smell? Oh, it's Kamala's BS. It was a stinky one tonight. Hey, Sheila Poo, 10 new membos coming in. Thank you, Sheila. How many membos have you brought in tonight? A lot. We like it. Thank you, Sheila. You're awesome. What's up? C. Warren says, thank you, Rob. I wouldn't have made it through this debate without you and my wonderful fellow chatters. We have the best chat. No doubt about it. Can I be honest? I wouldn't have made it through either. We got to go through it together. That's what's so beautiful about our lovely community. Thank you, C. Warren, for being a part of it. Spuds is here. What's up, Spuds? Says, vapid communism is not progress. No, it's not. She's trying to hide all of that. She doesn't want you to know that she's a communist. Trump called her out on it. It was a pretty good one. Michael Heim, what's up? Michelle, what's up, Michelle? In the house. Michelle Heim, thanks for the nice dono. Thanks for stopping by, watching the show. We've got Rhetoric by Eric, just became a new member. Ooh, that sounds like an interesting, perhaps, channel. Rhetoric by Eric, the study of rhetoric. It's kind of what we were talking about today with ethos, logos, and pathos. Important stuff. Angry Bellsprout says, Gray team represent from Angry Bellsprout. And Norman Lee Smith says, great simulcast, Rob. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Norman Lee Smith music. Well, that sounds like a fun one. Is that you, Norman? Norman Lee? Jamming out there on the guitar? Good to see you, Norman. Thanks for that. MJ Powell, 5 membos coming in. Some more from MJ. Thank you, MJ. Really appreciate it tonight. And Wendy Donnelly bringing in even more membos. We've got 10 more coming in, courtesy of Wendy Donnelly. My friends, tomorrow's members only stream might be the most lit it's ever been. It's going to be wild. It's going to be great. I can't wait to meet everybody. What's going on? Norman Lee Smith says, hey, cool. I was just wondering. Hey, Norman Lee Smith, my songs are now available on your favorite streaming platforms. Norman Lee Smith music. Check it out. It looks like it's probably a good vibe. So awesome. Thanks for that, Norman. And my friends, check it out. Norman Lee Smith music on all the apps. This one from Terry. Terry became a new YouTube membo. Amazing, Terry. We'll see you tomorrow morning. We got Sean Vogel, another membo. Man, it's going to be great tomorrow. Welcome, Sean. We'll see you in the morning. We got Ike's Girl. Harris sounded entitled, almost there. Yeah, there was a little bit of that. A little bit of arrogance, maybe confidence in her voice, which I think was appropriate for the night. What's going on, Rebecca? Hey, what's up, Rebecca P? Hey, says previously known as Bubby's Latkes, married to a Portuguese Jew. Shout out to our Portuguese Jews over there. You are truly awesome. Thank you for doing such an amazing job. You have a lighthearted reassurance about you that calms the frustration that grows when listening to unabashed stupidity. Much love. Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, look, I thank you for saying that. And I got to work on it too. I start watching this and I can even feel myself as we're sitting here watching this together, just like, what the hell is going on? They're just lies. Like, they're literal lies. I pulled up the documents. They're right here, right? We can just talk about it plain as day. But we have a propaganda media, state media, colluding with a fake candidate to install the same party that's already been in charge for the last 4 years and that has been in charge, minus Trump's term, it's the same people who've been in power for the last 50 years. War all the time. And so when we watch this, it's very deflating in many ways to see our own corrupt media play patty cake with a corrupt candidate and just to watch it happen on full display on TV. But as I said, I do think that this is going to ultimately it feels like an old story. It almost feels kind of like boring, like it's the same shtick. Like, you know, when you see a comedian or whatever, or some actor or something, you're like, bro, you got to change it up a little bit. Like, what are you doing? We've heard Russia, Russia, Russia for years. We've heard Trump's a dictator for years, right? They've done this for almost a decade now, coming up on a decade. They did this crap back in 2015 and 16. So it's like the boy who cries wolf all the time, right? It's the stories all this time. Constantly crying wolf, crying wolf, crying wolf. Eventually, nobody believes you because you're just a lying kid. Then the wolf comes and it's a thing. So, you know, it's sort of that parable. Nobody's believing them. They're wrecking their credibility. And I'm hopeful that the American public is seeing it in large enough groups and spades so that it is too big to rig. And this propaganda effort falls flat on its face. But they have a lot of power. They have a lot of resources. They have a lot of money and control of the institutions. And so we've got our work cut out for us, no doubt about it. But the truth is, when they show us who they are, we should believe them. They're cheaters, they're liars, they're hacks. They confirmed it for us on display today. They came out guns blazing. If they weren't that worried about Trump, they wouldn't have needed to do that. They did need to do that, which means they're scared. They're petrified. So this is it. You know, their entire journalistic credibility has been shattered, if it wasn't already. But it's pulling out all the stops, so I am optimistic about it. I think that we're going through a necessary purge. I think we're on this timeline right now that is very, very interesting, right? Trump could have been shot in the head. He wasn't shot in the head. So we're definitely on that timeline. We're not on the timeline where Trump gets shot in the head. So whatever that means, by that miracle, by that grace of God, there is still opportunity here to right the course, to correct the path that we're on. And so I feel optimistic about it. I think liars and cheaters and bullies eventually expose themselves, right? People can see that. You can feel it in your bones. You can sit across from somebody and know within 2 minutes, this person is dishonest. What is that? Well, it's your intuition. It's your human spirit that's connecting here. And I think people are going to listen to what Kamala said. She said it better than I expected. She wasn't as stumbling and bumbling. In fact, she did much better than even the interview she did with her support governor. I thought her performance was much better than even that. But it's still fake. It's still inauthentic. It's not real. It's fake Kamala. And I think at some level people can sense that. So we're going to stay positive, Rebecca. We're going to keep the energy levels at maximum until we win. Thank you for the nice dono. Thanks for stopping by. Shout out to our Portuguese Jews and your husband. What's up, Rebecca? Great comment. Thanks for that. And very generous. Migs, what's up, Migs? Became a new YouTube membo. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the members only stream in the morning, 12 noon Central Eastern time. What's up, Miguel Labra? Thank you, Miguel. Hey, Miguel, it's good to see you. Miguel Labra, man, it's been a long time. Where you been? Hey, best debate analysis. Thank you for that, Miguel. Good to see you back here. What's up, Acid Burn? Why didn't Trump look Harris in the eyes? Because it's very annoying. Very annoying. You don't look at the eyes. Try it with a friend. Try to talk to your friend, and when he's not looking at you, like specifically not looking at you like this. It's strange. It's weird behavior. Newt Gadget. Thank you, Newt. Thanks for being a membo. Says, thanks for everything you do. We appreciate it. Thank you, Newt. I appreciate you more than you know, my man. We got Angry Bellsprout. Says, what's stopping someone from telling lies about the grape in order to get an abortion? You can't support the exception until that question is answered. It's a good question. I think that's up for the states to figure out. And they're doing that right now thanks to democracy, thanks to our country in action. Libby T, what's up, Libby T? Says, now I know why I don't watch ABC. Yeah, we had a suspicion. I mean, David Muir, and we said this at the very start of the stream, these two people hate Trump. It was on display. We got to see it. What's up, Rudd? Rudd in the house says, since when does she support small businesses with $50,000? Well, since she needs to win an election. Yeah, it's an election season, so she's just saying whatever she needs to bribe her dumb voters to get across the finish line. Tony Hay. What's up, Tony Hay Munkett says, I haven't seen any proof of the dogs and cats being eaten. He shouldn't have mentioned that. Not saying that's not true. I just don't have any proof. Well, there was that one video of that woman. I don't know if she was an immigrant or just someone who was cracked out on drugs, but there is definitely body cam footage out there of some woman eating a cat. And the cop's like, "Are you eating a cat right now?" I watched it. I don't know if that person's a Haitian immigrant or what, but definitely a cop says, "Are you eating a cat?" It's weird stuff. So we don't want cats to be eaten in America, okay? I don't know who's eating the cats, but we have to stop immigration until we can figure out what the hell's going on. Someone's eating the cats. You know, I don't know who's eating them. Swede says a woman was interviewed, her cat was skinned and hung in a tree and eaten. See, there's another report from Swede for Trump. What's up, Swede? It's crazy. Hey, Truth Matters. Trump girl, what's up? Truth Matters sending in a super sticker. Thank you for that, Truth Matters. This one from Ami Girl says, Trump got this, baby. Ami Girl in the house. Thank you for that one. That's a kind of an interesting number, $9. Interesting number. I didn't even know you could do that. Thank you for that. Acid Burn, what's up? Says, I'm a huge member too. 320 pounds. Girth. You've got some girth. And some heft. And, you know, muscle weighs more than fat, as they say. Thank you, Acid Burn. Victoria Greenfield says her condescension is maddening. There was, maybe that's what it was, a little condescension. Yeah, like she did that a lot. She said, like this. We deserve better than this. It's pretty condescending, but that's who she is. Hey, what's up? Jack Mack says, geese are pretty tough, you know. I hope they didn't go down without a good fight. Rest in peace, poor geese. Trump 2024. Save our geese, save our cats. Vote Trump. Thank you, Jack. Jack Mack in the house. Jeremiah Greger says, I was wanting to know what Kamala was wanting to call Trump, but stopped. Yeah, I saw that too. She's like, this, it was like, say it. What are you going to say? I caught that too, Jeremiah. That was a funny one. Hey, Sheila Poo says, I should have used my bite guard during the debate, clenching the jaw. Not sure I have molars left after grinding and gritting my teeth so hard. Yeah, it was one of those nights, Sheila. Yeah, maybe for the next one, if there is one. William Holiday, what's up, William? Says, you demand, Rob. I don't care what Kamala or Tim Walz say about you. I don't either. They can say whatever they want. That's fine. It's a badge of honor. Kamala and Tim, the worst. And Kira, thank you, William, for that. And Kira says, Trump got, I'm speaking. I almost spit out my popcorn. It was a good line. Hey, quiet. He said that another time, too. He's like, quiet. It was a good line. No doubt about it. Definitely a zinger. And Michael Berger in the house says the cat in tree and eaten was in a different city. It was reported by ABL called Anthony Bryan Logan on YouTube. Yeah, okay, so I don't know what city or where, but I definitely saw a video of a cop who caught a woman and asked her, did you eat a cat? And I thought, that's an interesting case. I handled a lot of criminal defense cases. Nobody eating a cat. Yeah, nobody came in charged with eating a cat. It's new. It's a new time, new era. We're in a new era now. Hey, Finn Contracting. What's up, Finn? Great to see you. Thanks for being a membo. Says, did y'all notice that the only measurable policy she talked about were just giving money to people? 8 grand here, 50 grand here, 25 grand here, just bribing their voters, just buying votes. Yeah, because what else is she going to talk about? Like, they don't want to deliver bad news to anybody. Like, the country's kind of a mess. You can't give everybody everything they want all the time. That's called the tyranny of the majority. The majority just votes themselves a raise. And who does that go against? The minority, the expense of everybody else who has to pay for everything. So that's basically where we're at right now. Free student loans for everybody. And, waive your student loans and come into the country. We'll give you housing. And the list goes on and on and on and on. And so, my friends, super generous of you. Thank you so much for sending those in. It has been a heck of a stream. I love hanging out with you, going through this stuff together, because it's history in the making. We're literally watching and witnessing history. So it's just been a lot of fun to do that together. So let's say hello to our friends on Locals in the house. I think we had some great donos come in on Locals too. And then, of course, we'll be back tomorrow, my friends, to get into it again. Now, Londo, I don't know if this was, Yeah, let's see. Londo sent one in. He says, nice mantle, Rob. Thank you. Yeah, we're in the dining room because the studio got flooded out and we still are in construction. It's got one more day of drying and then they should be onto the repairs. What's going on? Thank you, Londo. Spud sent this one in. Says, not a puppy or a kitten, but a cool tugboat came through my lock today. Man, tugboats are pretty cool. Boats are cool. Heavy equipment is just cool. Zutral says, hey, thank you for the stream and for sharing the event with us. Thank you, Zutral. Was watching with my mom and brother. Thoughts on making a highlight reel video that shows Kamala lies and comments on it being debunked? Those are gold to share with others that need to come out of the darkness. That's a great idea. And, you know, Zutral, it's a great suggestion. And I just had a meeting with my team today about this. So we got to get better at highlight reels so we can process stuff very quickly. And we were discussing that today. So we want to get better about it because one example, we were just at the Tucker event. We just did some backstage stuff at the Tucker RFK event with Vivek. And I got some video, but we want to assemble it as a highlight reel. So it's a great idea. I don't have the skill sets really to do that right now. So working with the team and we're working on getting a better system in place for that. So it's a great suggestion. We're working on it. John Allen says, Rob, working overtime. What's up, John Allen? Good to see you, man. Been a while. Says, well done, brother. This is a morning show. You got some stamina. Well done, my friend. Says, I wish you and everyone a great week. This plus a morning show. I see what you're saying, John. Yeah, baby, every day. We stream twice a day. Membos get that morning stream. We're really grateful for our membos. We really try to deliver for our membos. Really try to deliver. John Allen, good to see you. Londo says, to be fair, geese are a huge upgrade to cats. I don't know that I'm in the market for eating either of them, but I'll take your word for it. Spud says, Kamala also divided her base regarding fracking, Palestine, and the Bernie bros. They're not going to be happy about that. KXFMX in the house says these mods ostensibly called every citizen of Ohio liars. They did. I'll be waiting for the residents to backlash against them the next couple of days. Thanks for an incredible evening. Thank you, KX, man. What a nice dono. And yeah, they did. He's like, I talked to somebody there who said it's a lie. So I guess it's not happening. Everyone in Ohio is wrong. Hey, what's up, Christy Katz? Thank you, Rob, for taking your time to show the debate. Thank you, Christy, for hanging with us. Trump needed to ask her where she was at the DNC on the J6 when the pipe bomb was there. Yes, I was wondering that too. I wanted to know that answer as well. Mini Wheat says, Rob, you can describe the debate in a single word. Like Joe Biden. What's up, Mini Wheat? It was just kind of a big stumbling, mumbling, bumbling mess. T.A. Holloway says, did Kamala ever deny being a Marxist? Good question. I don't think so. She's like, oh, yeah, my dad is a Marxist. I love my daddy. Hey, Husky says, 6 more days, I'll be a membo for an entire year. Yes, that 1-year anniversary is coming up. Good to see you, Husky. It's been such an incredible year with an extended family. It's true. It's really like that. Like, it really is like that. We get to talk about stuff. We talk about life. We talk about philosophy. And yesterday we were talking about seed oils and all sorts of good stuff. So we're learning a lot. It's a lot of fun. Thank you, Husky. 1 year. It's going to be amazing to have you. And Spuds is here, says Kamala accused Trump as if Trump was POTUS and like they weaponized the justice system to go after the miscreants. If Joe and Cammie didn't cheat, then why are they concerned? If Joe and Cammie didn't cheat, then what are they so concerned about? And those were over from Locals, and we also had our first thread, which we had some other great comments in. And so let's see what those look like. Then we're going to go hang out over on Locals for our members only after party. Now, hopefully this works for us. Let's see. Okay, it doesn't look like that first thread is working quite yet. So we'll have to do those. Locals friends, we'll come back on that first thread in the morning because it's just not loading right now. Probably because we just finished it. Let's see. All right, anyways, so we have Londo says, Rob, you need a full TV studio like Fox. One day, my friend, one day. And this one from Don's wife says, how likely was it that Kamala was wearing an earpiece hidden behind her hair and that she was getting help that way? That's a great question. And I've always wondered that, like, do they actually even check that? Do they, like in boxing, right? They go up, they rub your ears. You have anything, look at your mouth, and all the things. Do you have anything in your ears? Anybody check that? Or is it just we take her word for it? Good to see you, Don's wife. I don't really know the answer to that, but it's a really great question. Now, we had our other friends on the first locals thread, but for whatever reason, it's not showing us the tips at the moment, which is a bummer. So we'll come back on that once it has had time to figure out what it's doing. But those were some really nice comments over on locals. Thank you, locals friends. Yes, thank you for the nice mantle. Yeah, it's a nice mantle. It works. It works for us. So locals, hang tight, locals. We are going to come back. We're going to hit the comments that were in that thread in a minute as we debrief the night. We're going to come over to locals and hang out. And yeah, here was one from Fin Contracting. They're buying votes. And then Patriot Rob sent this one in. It says, are there laws against eating domestic animals? Yeah, I would like animals that don't belong to you. So like, I'm sure if you're a farmer on your land, right, like you could eat your animals. But if you go and steal geese, then there's animal cruelty laws, there's endangerment law, animal endangerment laws. There's like animal cruelty laws. There's all sorts of animal laws. I don't know what they would charge on that. Stealing public geese, like theft, like are geese public property? Would a prosecutor charge a stolen goose as stolen property? Like larceny? I don't know. I've never seen it. Never seen anybody charged with stealing animals for human consumption from a park. So it'll be a crime of first impression, apparently. In America, we have a lot of new things happening in America. A lot of new things. Woodchip Bill, thank you, Woodchip. Woodchip is reminding everybody, hit that like button if you haven't already, if you're still here joining us. Thanks for hitting that like button. Thanks for also subscribing if you're not already subscribed. That would be amazing. Tremendous said, normally I would add my thoughts. Tremendous wrote this on Locals, says, normally I would add my thoughts, but you already covered all of them. Definitely one of my favorites of all of your shows. Well, thank you. Some of my other favorites were the impeachment party, where you wrote up impeachment papers for Kamala. You were there for that one, Tremendous. That's old, man. That's old. And the live stream on the 2020 election night. Yeah, that was like, we streamed for like 6 hours that night. And Mama Govea's first appearance when she made the orange man bad and the red, white, and blue Trump Christmas cookies. Tremendous. You've been around for a long time. Those are good highlights for sure. Yeah, Mama G made, that was back in the old, that was in the spaceship studio. Remember that? Wow, that's a long time ago. Tremendous has been around forever. We love you, Tree. And says the vegetables want to be eaten. That's right, the vegetables. Eat your vegetables. Don't eat the kitty cats, all right? They're good animals. And we love our cats, our dogs, and our geese. Don't eat the animals. Okay, so my friends, we are going to leave it there. We're going to go over to locals. We're going to debrief a little bit. If you're a locals member, we had that prior first thread that apparently is not showing me the tips yet for whatever reason. Driving bananas. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. They just loaded. Okay, cool. They just loaded. Perfect. How's that for timing? Amazing. So we had these come in from Pookie's Ma. Says, I'm here, Rob. I'm watching. I wouldn't watch anywhere else, especially because I canceled my cable. Good for you. Yeah, nobody needs ABC being piped up into their house. NY says, Harris location is a marijuana dispensary. LOL. Knox says, happy all. Hey all. Happy debate night. Says, so a prosecutor who wants justice reform? Okay. Yeah, and her record on prosecution is pretty bad. She appealed the death penalty in California, ran her whole life as like, I oppose the death penalty, and then appealed it so that the death penalty still exists in California. Knox says, Willie Brown gave Kamala her first job after law school. Social Security Review Board. I interned at the Denver PD from Knox. Social Security Review Board. So Willie B got Kamala in, and the whole thing was history. Kamala launched her campaign, her political career, with a $120,000 patronage job from Willie Brown. Sword Magic Helmet says, I'm having a difficult time understanding why people don't know Kamala Harris. Kamala, my values haven't changed. End of story. Pragmatism. In Kamala's case, it's merely cover for bold-faced lying. Her 2019 policies say it all. This is communism personified. Jigam says, hey, thank you, Jigam. Here, this is cause Rob and Watching the Watchers and all the mods here are the absolute best. You're right about that, Jigam. And the chat, too. Yeah, everybody, we love you. Knox says, good handshake. Says Trump seemed a little bit surprised about the handshake, but seemed happy about it. Knox says, Harris thinks that women are unchaste, that they forgot about birth control, right? Abortion is not birth control, so just take birth control. Here, this one is from Catholic News Agency. What happens when babies survive abortions and a doctor's alarming response? Yeah, they apparently leave them on the table so they just die. Knox says, I lived in Saipan, Northern Mariana Islands. People ate whatever they could catch, chickens, ducks, fish, whatever. There are no hunting rules in the islands. Yeah, which is a little bit different than, downtown Philadelphia. Crash says Muir was way out of bounds by placing his thumb on the scale with his Springfield, Ohio city manager, which is a totally ridiculous. Like he went and tried to look up stuff to literally fact check Trump, but didn't do it with Kamala. Rocky says, rock on, Rob. Good to catch alive. Been uber busy. Thanks for covering this. It's a great way to watch such a thing. As always, thanks for what you do and how you do it. Thank you, Rocky. Good to see you, Rocky. And I notice when people aren't here. But I'm glad you're back, Rocky. I miss you. Thank you, brother. Tasadaka says, it feels like Trump is on the defense more than the offense. I agree with that. Yeah, he was all night. They kept talking about Trump. It was all Trump. The whole thing was Trump. And it was 3-on-1 because she has no vision. Larry says, I'm not going to sleep tonight because I'm so mad. Well, hopefully we've calmed down a little bit. I think it was by design. It was always going to be a free-for-all against Trump. 51K says, by a show of exclamation, points, who here believes that she has been holed up in that hotel room memorizing her answers to the questions that she was fed 4 days ago? Yeah, maybe she had the answers. Certainly seemed like she was pretty prepared. Larry says she is well prepared for this debate, but ill prepared for POTUS. She is prepared to be a commie dictator. Tanya Karras, what's up, Tanya? Happy Taco Tuesday. Tanya stopped by this morning, had a delicious taco menu this morning for us. Thanks for being here tonight, Rob. Thank you, Tanya. Thanks for the dono and for being here. I love hanging with you guys. Rocky says, this tip is for Trump getting in a well-timed reminder of the Ukraine, China, Russia money to the Biden family. Cheers to Donald on that one. Yeah, it's weird how they're always in bed with these companies like Ukraine. Suddenly, Hunter was on that board getting $1 million a year. Sergeant GPS in the House says, I would say Trump dominated overall, had some great lines. Kamala didn't fall flat on her face. She did better than I was thinking she would do. I agree with that. I was hoping to see a fatal blow to Kamala delivered from Trump, fatal political blow, but I don't think that he quite delivered one. I agree. It was fun in the chat, though. Y'all make this way more fun to watch. Yeah, it's a lot. It's better when we do it together. Otherwise, you're just kind of wanting to throw stuff at the TV and listening to Kamala's lies. So thanks for that, Sergeant. Good analysis. Christy Katz says Trump should have asked her why she was at the DNC on J6 with a pipe bomb. Yeah, I would like to know the answer to that question. What was she doing there? And Jigum, what's up, Jigum, says, thanks for shining the spotlight on the facts, Rob. Helps to have the actual factual info, especially during undecided friend voter conversations. There's Kamala. This is an actual photograph of her before they had to do her politician transition surgery. So she got politician transition surgery, and they removed the lying protrusion from her face. Thank you, Jigum. And Former says, I believe that the partisan border bill would allow 4,000 or 5,000 illegal aliens per day. That's right. They codified it. That would allow between 1.4 million and 1.8 million illegals to come in per year. Not much of a stopgap. Yeah, exactly right. And the stupid Republicans like Senator Langford over there, who should be ashamed of himself for all time and the rest of eternity, they gave the Democrats that on a silver platter and said, hey, why don't you just have this so you can blame us for illegal immigration for the rest of the election cycle? And that's Mitch McConnell, and that's Senator Langford. And these are people who are intentionally trying to harm Trump, in my opinion, that they know better than this. It's like when Lindsey Graham came out and decided that he was going to have a what the heck was I just talking about? I just read a comment that totally deviated my thought. Here's what it was. Tremendous said, it's a great line, Rob. It's better when we do it together. All right, total brain. It's getting a little late, so my brain stops working about 9 o'clock. So great line, Rob. Better when we do it together. It is a good line. It's a little bit risque, but it is better when we do it together. All right, so My friends, we are going to leave it there. We're going to go over to locals. We're going to hang out. We're going to debrief. We're going to have a little bit more conversation before we leave it there on the day. But then we're going to come back in the morning. And for our members, we're going to see you 9 a.m. Pacific. So it's morning my time. It's noon Eastern time. We're going to debrief this some more. We're going to see what the day has in store. And it's going to be a beautiful Wednesday that's going to unfold very nicely. What's going on? Beautiful Crazies here became a new YouTube member. And we had some amazing YouTube members join us. Welcome aboard, new YouTube friends. Very great to see everybody. We'll say some quick shout outs to our friends on X, anybody who is joining us over there. Quick shout outs before we wrap it up. What's up? Paul Mino is in the house. Paul Mino, it's good to see you. Paul Mino says, our Telegram poll on who won the debate was 80% Trump, 20% Kamala. There's a disturbing amount of diversity in our private members only Telegram chat. What's up? B. Torn is over there. Annie McWilliams is over there. James Pepper's in the house. We got Monica Hendricks, says she used up all her memorized lines in 2 minutes. Oh my gosh. Sandy Beach says, Sandy Beach is preparing for the apocalypse. If Kamala Harris wins, Sandy Beach has her food supply ready to go. Don't eat the kitties. Don't eat the kitties. But you might have to, because this is what Kamala's future is going to look like for all of us. All right, so my friends, it has been a beautiful and a heck of a stream. We made it through this historic debate. I'm optimistic about the outcome on this. You're going to see a bunch of hyperventilation about how incredible Kamala is. Remember, these are the same people who were doing their hysterical, maniacal laughter and joy just a few weeks ago. It's fake. They are creating a fake propaganda narrative. Their candidate has no substance. They spent the whole time in a 3-on-1 dogpile against Trump because they're trying to stop him from winning because he's got the American people at his back. So we're going to be here to continue to cover their lies. They fact check him with lies. They don't fact check Kamala at all, but we'll do it for him. And so I want to thank you so much for being here with us. I know there are many places where you can stream this and a lot of other places to hang out. Very grateful to have you here. Come and join us. It really means the world to me and to us and to our community to have so many amazing people here. We're excited about our work together going forward. But we're going to leave it there tonight. We're going to head on over to locals for a debrief. Members will be back in the morning to get into it again. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow for the regular show at the regular time and regular location, and there will be more to get into there. We want to thank our amazing mods who mod down the fort for us, keep things nice and orderly, our meme smiths out there, and of course for you, for being here, being a part of what we're doing, and for being amazing. We're going to come back in the morning to do it all again, and my friends, in order to do that appropriately, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.